In the summer of 2021, the world was absolutely captivated by the case of Gabby Petito. I think this is the first time we've seen a case like this go as viral and have as much media coverage as it did since probably JonBenet Ramsey. Gabby Petito was a 22-year-old travel vlogger who vanished during a cross-country road trip with her fiance, Brian Laundrie. As the investigation unfolded, we ended up finding out that Gabby was sadly murdered by her fiance, Brian Laundrie, who then took his own life. But I remember it being a pretty crazy week from the point where Gabby Petito was just missing to the point where her remains were found, and then the search for Brian Laundrie. It was honestly a very sad and scary case to follow at the time. And there's so much more to this case that really could do a huge deep dive into, which is what we're going to do today, because I think there are a lot of conspiracy, there are a lot of speculation, and just different theories and thoughts about everything, especially surrounding Brian Laundrie and his family. So Gabby Petito was born on March 19th of 1999, and her dream at the time of her death was to be a YouTube vlogger. She wanted to vlog her and her fiance Brian's van lifestyle, and she was growing her page, and she really wanted to take that off, but unfortunately she never got the opportunity to do so. So we're gonna go through a timeline about the events that occurred and then talk different theories and speculation about what happened. So just 2 weeks before Gabby went missing, Gabby and Brian were pulled over on the side of the road in Utah because the police were responding to a domestic abuse call. Somebody had claimed that they saw, physical violence between Gabby and Brian, and they called the police, and the police came. There's famous footage of Gabby cries to the police and kind of made it seem like Gabby was the one who was like hitting Brian because she was obviously terrified. So she just kind of was like, no, like I hit him, like I was distracting him on the road, like XYZ. And she kind of took a lot of the blame for what was happening, which is, I think, like really bad negligence on the police's part in this case. Genuinely, I think if somebody would have pointed out that like this girl looks absolutely terrified, it obviously could have saved her life. So that's very unfortunate that happened. But she seemed very distressed. The police ended up just being like, hey, why don't you guys take a beat? Like Gabby can go spend the night in the van and Brian can spend the night in a hotel. And they set him up in a hotel for domestic abuse, like survivors, which is weird because obviously now we know that like anything that Gabby was doing was a reaction to what Brian was doing. He was obviously a terrible, abusive person. So it's frustrating to me that the police thought, like, let me send this 22-year-old girl to, like, go sleep in a van by herself and then send her fiance to this, like, hotel and set him up at a hotel at night. I don't know. I just think that was weird, in my opinion. I just feel like, obviously, like, hindsight's 2020, like, now we're watching the video knowing what happened next. But to me, it always seemed like Gabby seemed so scared. It didn't ever seem like she was an abusive person or anything like that. She was terrified. And he was just, like, weird and kind of indifferent. And I just feel like it was a pretty big red flag. And I'm surprised that the police let this slide the way that it did. I'm sure those officers, like, stay up at night thinking about this because I can't even imagine like how guilty they would feel. And honestly, I'm not saying they should feel guilty because obviously we can't prevent what we can't predict, but at that rate, it's just, there was clearly something wrong here, and I don't think the investigation was done properly. But I don't know, I'm not a cop. So fast forward 2 weeks later, on August 24th, 2021, Gabby is last seen checking out of a hotel in Salt Lake City, Utah. They're seen going to a Whole Foods, and that's the last ever footage of Gabby Petito. On August 25th of 2021, Gabby posted her final Instagram post, which included different photos from Utah. On August 27th, Gabby's mother, Nicole, received kind of an unusual text from Gabby's phone where she was referring to her own grandfather as Stan, which is his name, but that just like raised concern and it didn't feel like something that she would do. So her mom didn't really think too much of it at the time, but as time went on, she kept not hearing anything from Gabby or Brian. On September 1st of 2021, Brian Laundrie returns to Northport, Florida alone in Gabby's van. And then from September 6th to the 7th, the Laundrie family goes camping in Fort DeSoto Park in Florida. And during this time, Gabby's parents are kind of sounding the alarms, like, where are they? Where's Gabby? Like, where's Brian? We haven't heard from any of them. They're calling Brian's parents being like, where are our kids? Like, have you heard from them? And they're just not answering, which is so incredibly strange. And obviously, like, now we know why, but it's just dark as fuck that they weren't even like letting this family have answered. It's so sick. It is so sick. People who cover up murder for their children are insane. Like, they shouldn't be having children in the first place. But anyway, on September 11th, that was when Gabby's family decided to report her as missing after not hearing from her or Brian's family for several days. And it's just interesting to me again that the family decided to go camping during this. Like, come on. I just can't believe that. On September 13th, Brian reportedly leaves his family's home for a hike in the Carlton Reserve. The part of this that I find to be interesting is that there were police and various people surrounded there 24/7, surrounded the Laundrie house, and nobody saw him leaving. Like, come on, that doesn't make any sense. He refused to answer any questions. His overall demeanor was weird, and like his parents' demeanor, honestly, even weirder to me. And the family reported him missing on September 17th, claiming that they hadn't seen him since September 13th. And a lot of people think that this is not true and kind of like a sham, but I don't even know. On September 19th, Gabby's remains were found in Wyoming's Bridger-Teton National Forest, and her death was ruled homicide by strangulation. And this was when the search for Brian Laundrie really began. It was an absolute manhunt at this point. People thought that Brian Laundrie was hiding in many different places. A lot of people believe that his parents, and I 100% agree, that they were involved with hiding their son. And some people believe that Brian was just reported missing even though he was in an underground bunker in his house. A lot of people believe that theory. Honestly, what I will say is, like, what I think happened is Brian goes home, tells his family he got mad, he killed Gabby, or whatever story he comes up with, but he tells them Gabby is dead. And for some reason, they go to this retreat to kind of make it look normal. So then they tried to make it look like they got in a fight and parted ways, but Gabby was still alive when that happened. And Brian goes home and goes on a little camping trip with his family because he doesn't know that anything's wrong with Gabby. But that theory just doesn't add up whatsoever, because theoretically, if they were really trying to go that route, they should have called Gabby's parents and been like, yeah, like, Brian's here, like, they got in a fight and that was that, like, they left. I don't know why, like, I just feel like the parental involvement here made it so much more obvious that he was guilty, in my opinion. I don't know. But nonetheless, law enforcement authorities maintained that they were monitoring the Laundrie residence and had no evidence of the parents assisting Brian in his disappearance. But again, there's no way that's true. The Laundrie's family attorney also stated that Brian's parents did not know his whereabouts and were absolutely cooperating with the law enforcement. But we know that that's not really true, especially in the beginning of this case. They were not cooperating at all. They would not answer any questions. They wouldn't let Brian be seen by anyone. No one even knew he was actually there at points. And it was just disturbing overall, honestly. Like, to watch the police footage of the parents just scrambling to find answers to the police's questions, it's just so obvious that they were covering for their son. A pretty pivotal piece of evidence here that kind of garnered a significant amount of attention was a letter that was found in Brian Laundrie's home that was written by Brian Laundrie's mother, Roberta Laundrie, and it was titled Burn After Reading. So let's talk about what the letter actually said. So the letter was addressed to Brian, and it contained a lot of bizarre statements that left many people questioning the extent of his parents' involvement. And it's dark. I would say, like, there is absolutely no way in hell my parents would ever, like, want to help me cover up a murder, let alone write a letter like this. It's absurd. So the letter says, quote, "I just want you to remember I will always love you, and I know you will always love me. You are my boy. Nothing can make me stop loving you. Nothing can or ever will divide us, no matter what we do, or where we go or what we say. We will always love each other. If you're in jail, I will bake you a cake with a file in it. If you need to dispose of a body, I will bring a shovel and garbage bags. If you fly to the moon, I will be watching the skies for your re-entry. If you say you hate my guts, I will get new guts. Remember that love is a verb, not a noun. It's not a thing. It's not words, it is actions. Watch people's actions to know if they love you, not their words. Therefore, I am certain that neither death nor life, nor angels, nor the ruling spirits, nor thing present, nor things to come, nor power from above, nor powers from below, nothing in the entire created world can separate our love. Nothing can separate us. Not hatred, not hunger, not homelessness, not threats, not backstabbing, not even sin, not the unthinkable or the thinkable can get between us. I love you, Mom." Girl, that's just such a fucking weird letter to write to your kid. And obviously, Burn After Reading is concerning. It's very clear that they definitely knew something was up here and then he probably killed Gabby if they didn't know the exact whole story, which I kind of think they did. It's kind of surprising to me this family isn't being tried with like assisting in a crime, because they clearly were covering something up. Like, that letter is so incriminating, I don't understand. But I know, like, there are obviously, like, O.J. Simpson, Casey Anthony, so many people, like, get off in that are clearly guilty, but it's just, like, I don't know how, I don't know. They probably have to hide forever. So Roberta Laundrie's defense to this letter is, after the letter was made public, she claimed that the letter was written way before Gabby and Brian had left on their road trip. And she insisted that it meant to be lighthearted and had nothing to do with Gabby's murder or Brian's disappearance. That's obviously a ridiculous claim. Like, whatever. Ridiculous claim. Burn after reading? Girl, my mother would never say anything. Like, that's just nuts. That's a nuts thing. I cannot believe that he has a sister, because she sounds like a boy mom if I've ever heard one. Many outraged true crime followers and Gabby's family expressed disbelief at Roberta's explanation and argued that the phrases in the letter were too specific and eerie to be innocent. As the search for Brian intensified, some theorists suggest that Brian had actually never left his parents' home on September 13th, 2021, which I also believe, and they instead believe that he was hiding in a secret underground bunker on the property. There was very suspicious behavior from the Laundries. For one, Brian's parents waited days to report him missing, which, weird. Either that's a delay tactic to give him time to hide or escape, I don't know. Either way, parents are guilty here. Allegedly. Protesters and reporters that were camped outside the Laundrie home also noticed some really strange activity, including the family sneaking supplies into their backyard. There was also some drone footage of a possible hand in the garden, where it looked like a hand was reaching out of the flower bed. I don't know, but a lot of people believe that that's proof that Brian was living in this underground bunker. And potentially, people think that he still might be. So police body cam footage shows that officers did search the Laundrie home multiple times, though they never did a thorough, full excavation of the yard. So there would be no way for them to have found this underground bunker if it was properly hidden. Why would it exist in the first place? That part is kind of questionable, but there was no other official records or permits that suggested the property had this underground bunker to begin with. Fast forward here to October 20th of 2021. This was when Brian's partial skeletal remains were found, which is interesting because that area had actually been searched extensively for weeks prior to this, looking for Brian, and authorities could not find him whatsoever. But I think hours after Brian Laundrie's parents joined the search, they suddenly found his remains, which obviously is kind of suspicious. How did law enforcement and search teams comb through this Carlton Reserve for over a month, yet his remains were instantly found by his own family? Like, that's obviously weird. The skeletal state of Brian's remains were also kind of confusing. A lot of people realized that his body had rapidly decomposed, which some experts say was unusually fast given that he had only been missing for around 5 weeks. Other people argue that Florida's environment may have accelerated the decomposition, but again, a lot of people believe that it's unlikely that his body would be completely unrecognizable in such a short amount of time. A lot of people think that these remains are not actually Brian Laundrie's. So he was identified through dental records at first, but there's also talks that he was identified through a full DNA confirmation. So I don't know if I necessarily believe the theory that he is still alive, but it's definitely a very popular theory that's out there. But I think what we do know is pretty interesting, because obviously Brian's parents did not report him missing for several days after he allegedly left home, and when they finally joined the search on October 20th, after the police spent over a month looking in this area, they coincidentally found his belongings within minutes and then found his body like a couple hours later. A lot of conspiracy theorists think that Brian Laundrie is actually alive and that his parents are secretly in contact with him, and they staged his death so that it would help him escape. I don't know. What we do know is there have been several alleged Brian sightings, but that's actually not that uncommon when it comes to like a missing persons case. It happens a lot. Like, I'm pretty sure the Madeleine McCann case, they said they get thousands of calls every day about sightings of Madeleine McCann. But on the Appalachian Trail, a hiker claimed that he saw someone who looked exactly like Brian Laundrie in North Carolina, but none of these sightings were ever confirmed. One pretty prominent theory also talks about how Brian Laundrie's identification through dental records was manipulated, potentially due to a family connection in the dental field. I remember hearing that his mother was a dentist, but that's actually not true. And then I've heard that his uncle is a dentist, couldn't verify it. So unsure if I necessarily believe that theory. Plus, I think regardless, the FBI made a statement saying that his remains were not identified via his family. Even Gabby Petito's family actually addressed these rumors and clarified that the identification was conducted by medical examiners and not influenced by any family members. And obviously they have no reason to lie. They want to see that man dead or in jail. They're not going to hide him, you know? Some other weird aspects about Brian Laundrie still being alive is that he briefly went live on his Instagram account. It was like a 2-second clip of someone on a boat, so it's obviously like not proof that it was him, and a lot of people's families have access to their accounts after they pass away, so unsure. Also, his Spotify activity has been updated since his death, so that is also strange, but again, could it be his family members using his playlists and stuff? Sure. Brian's death note also was just so pathetic. Like, he still never really fully admitted that he like cold-bloodedly murdered Gabby, which is kind of insane because like he's literally dying. Why does he care what people think? At that point, he's dead. But he basically wrote that Gabby fell and was in extreme pain, and he said, quote, "I don't know the extent of Gabby's injuries, only that she was in extreme pain. I ended her life. I thought I was merciful. That is what she wanted, but I see now all the mistakes I made. I panicked. I was in shock, but from the moment I decided, took away her pain, I knew I couldn't go on without her." And that's when he said that he rushed home to spend the time that he had left with his family. But honestly, it's just kind of like gross that this man even said that, because obviously that wasn't true. There was no evidence of Gabby having any prior injuries that would have been like so terrible that she was just like, take my life. That makes absolutely no sense. It was very clear that he had strangled her, and it's just disturbing overall. Like, I cannot believe that he still went out of this world clinging to his innocence. Like, it's just so gross to me when people do that, because I'm like, girl, just let the family know the truth. Like, at that point, if you're really sorry for what you did, obviously they're not. He's pathetic. And I don't know, a lot of people do believe that Brian Laundrie is alive. I don't really think so. I just don't know how that would get covered up in the way that it did. Again, unless his parents had like a shit ton of money where they were able to like negotiate with the FBI, but like we don't even know that that's necessarily a thing. Obviously we hear about it in celebrity cases and whatnot, but the fact that his remains had to be identified, I just don't know if that could be true. But nonetheless, I definitely agree that I think his parents were clearly involved here. If there's kind of no doubt in my mind that his parents helped hide him and get him away, and maybe they were trying to help him run and he decided to take his own life because he didn't want to spend his life running. I'm not sure, but either way, it's very clear that the Laundries knew something was going on here, and I just think it's fucked up that they have not been charged. I think they should be. But I want to hear your guys' opinions on this case. I think it is obviously so heartbreaking and very, very sad for Gabby and her family, and I just cannot imagine how much more frustrating it would be to have this man just take his own life and write such a bullshit letter, and then also have his family be so involved, like, and not give a shit about your child. Like, that's so upsetting. I cannot imagine what that would be like. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Do you think Brian Laundrie is still alive? Like I said, I don't think he is, but I want to hear why you do. But anyway, that is it for today's video. If you guys liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below what you guys want me to talk about next. Any other true crime cases you want me to cover, let me know. But that is it. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, and subscribe for new videos every week, and I will see you guys later. Bye!